Well, good morning, King's Church, and welcome to a new segment of Church in Your Home. We're going to hear from various different members of the church and stories in lockdown and lives before it. And this morning, to kick things off, I'm with Byron, my good friend.
Good morning, Nick. How you doing? Good morning, King's Church.
Very good indeed, thank you. So, Byron, tell us a little bit about how life's been in lockdown, first of all.
Life in lockdown has been good. We found out really early on that Amy was pregnant, and that was just so exciting. I think we've had our difficulties like everyone else has had, really just managing being at home, obviously not seeing people as regularly. However, I think, we are extremely grateful that, we're in a position now where things are starting to open up. We've been having, life group in the park, albeit in smaller little groups. I've been back at work for a couple of weeks now, which has been strange, but I would say it's been challenging in a good way and certainly helped me develop in my career. Amy's also been back for, she was back for a couple of days. She got a bit of time with her year 4 group, which she was really happy with. So yeah, I would say overall good, but I think like everyone, we're just hoping for a return to reality, really, a return to normality.
Yeah. Now, I must say that you're looking quite trim in the hair department at the moment.
Thank you.
Have you had any lockdown hair?
I have had a lockdown haircut, went down to Old Bridge Road. Happily, it was, I'd say, one of the best moments of the lockdown for me.
Brilliant.
Yeah.
Now, I've known you for a few years. I think it was
Yeah.
2017 when you came to the
Yeah.
UK, and we became close friends straight away. And I know you've been on a bit of a journey since you came to the UK.
Yeah.
And I'm just keen for some of the, for the church to hear a little bit about your story.
Brilliant.
So how would you say your walk with God has been or has changed over the last 3-4 years? And you can even include how you came to become a Christian in the first place.
Yeah. So just a bit about my testimony. I did go to church as a young boy, as a teenager, particularly in my early teenage years. I lived next door to a pastor. They were great family friends of ours, still very close with them. And I went to their church for many years. I thoroughly enjoyed it, but always just found myself to be kind of that guy in Sunday school. Just things, couldn't really wrap my head around things, just found myself quite confused. And I've subsequently come to work out what that's called. I'll get to that in a moment. We were talking about it in life group yesterday. I then just strayed away for a couple of years, was more interested in, school and tomfoolery.
That's an excellent word.
Yeah.
It covers a multitude of sins.
It covers a multitude of things. But I think it was, around the time when I met Ames, I was going through quite a difficult time in my life. Just, I dealt with some things that were really hard, and in meeting her, she really sort of opened my eyes and my perspective to God, and just to understand that I had so much to be grateful for, and so much to be I was so blessed. And that kind of started a journey of going to church again with her. At that point, we were pretty much like just friends, although there were certainly feelings there. And I think it just blossomed from there on out. I really became quite invested in just finding out more, but I was also quite frank throughout the whole period, just about where I was at consistently. I felt that if I was going to, go back to church and really just make this a big part of my life, I needed to be honest, because I felt like there'd been a portion of my life where I wasn't that honest. And so, I think since going to church and just re-engaging with it and then giving my life again in 2015, end of 2015, things rapidly changed. I was really excited about the journey that I was on, but I did still find myself in the midst of quite a bit of confusion and doubt at various points, as you'll know, and we had conversations and about that. But then coming to the UK, that sort of certainly persisted. We quickly found a home at King's Church, and I think there, since then, really just engaging with life group, engaging with close friends, and continuing those frank conversations. I would say my walk with God has continued to develop in a way where I feel like I'm probably at the strongest now that I've ever been, and probably the most convicted I've ever been in my life, which is quite an incredible thing. But yeah, I think there's still a way to go in certain areas.
And what's the word or the phrase or the thing that you diagnosed in yesterday's life group?
It was in the book of James. We were talking about, we're going through the John Ortberg series.
Oh, yeah.
Classic 80s series, which is great.
I thought it was 80s. Turns out it was filmed in, I think, 2001.
Wow.
So maybe they were doing like a retro take on 2001 to make it look like
yeah,
the
it had
80s.
something to do with the clothes, though, you know.
And the studio setup
Studios,
as well.
yeah. Anyway, so yeah, going through the series, and the fourth episode, Amy and I were leading the life group session on that. It was around meditation, or meditating on the Word, and we'd spoken a lot about meditation in a previous series in the prayer course that we had done, and meditating on the Word, but the ideas that were coming through, or one of the ideas was this idea around double-mindedness in the book of James, and how he talks about double-mindedness as being this, obviously sinful, but something that I read as all people experience at some point. And I certainly kind of really feel like I have struggled with that over the course of my walk with God, to the point where I have felt myself so conflicted over certain issues before that I just can't reach an impasse and just can't make my mind up. So it's kind of 2 steps forwards, 3 steps backwards. And the analogy in the John Ortberg film is there's these 2 guys who are sort of rowing against one another and just getting absolutely nowhere. And I certainly have found that in my walk with God at various points. So yeah, I mean, I suppose there have been things that have helped me address that and deal with that. And one would be, I'd say, the life group. We've spoken a lot about vulnerability. I've tried to be as honest as I can in that space. And I would say, 2 is just going back to the basic premise of Christianity, really, is like just being convicted in Jesus' death and his resurrection. And from there, slowly starting to figure out some of the bits and pieces along the way, but yeah, still a journey.
Yeah. No, I think it's I definitely have been really honest, and I've thoroughly enjoyed being in a life group with you and hearing where you're at along the way. And it's great to hear the life group's been at one of the ways that's blessed you in your walk with God. Are there any other ways you found helpful? I know you're a keen podcast listener. There's books that you like reading.
Yeah.
What other things you found helpful? Because there'll be definitely people who are in a similar boat to what you're in now or have been in the past, who no doubt be watching this.
Yeah. So yes, I mean, I think much of my journey has been intellectual, in the sense that I've tried to approach things as intellectually as possible. That's not always, I don't think that's the only way that one should do it. And I think where I've fallen short at times is not embracing my heart enough, and being too kind of caught up in my head around processing ideas, which I really thoroughly enjoy. I enjoy that part of it. But I have really enjoyed the Unbelievable podcast with Justin Briley, which just tackles a range of issues. I think it's just done in such a fantastic way, and I think his authenticity as a podcast is amazing. He is a Christian, and he's just really open to giving people a platform to discuss big ideas. And I think I've thoroughly enjoyed that. I mean, I've read, and I do read, a variety of things. I feel like at times I've read probably too widely, as opposed to going to the gospel and to the Bible at times. And I want to try and really recenter and focus on the Word of God. I'm very quick to pick up the commentary.
Yeah.
And to try and read what so-and-so said about something. But I feel like that came through in the John Ortberg session that we did last night. It was around just meditating on God's Word to have revelation. And I think I was really struck by that as something that I don't do regularly enough. And perhaps that's what's causing some of this double-mindedness that I'm facing at various times. So yeah, I would say all of those things have been great, those resources. There's, having a chat is fantastic with friends, and I would say on the back of the prayer course, really trying to be more intentional about prayer. Trying to pray not necessarily just for intercession, but to be thankful as well. I found that to be quite helpful.
Yeah. And what would you say are some of the challenges that maybe lie ahead, or some of the things you're still wrestling with?
I think being a dad is going to be a big challenge, although very excited about that. I think Personally, you know, like I said, the double-mindedness is something that I'm still very aware of, and it was great and humbling talking in a life group about how actually it's inevitability of the human condition, really, and it was almost from a place of acknowledging that and accepting that and being vulnerable in that understanding that I think I'll grow in that. And like I said, it's just great to be part of a life group where we know that we are wrestling with various things, you know, and people experience that double-mindedness on various levels. So I'm going to, you know, I'm convicted to just really keep tackling that, really, and you know, praying into that and asking for support from those who are close to me. So yeah.
Oh, well, thanks so much for sharing your story. I'm sure you blessed lots of people. You blessed me. And one last massive question before we sign off on the first stories from King's Church. Who do you think is going to win the next Lions tour? The British Lions or South Africa?
It's classic. And you know, Nick, I'm really impressed with you because today, it's not a Sunday today, but today I understand is the anniversary of England winning the World Cup, right? The Cricket World Cup, and you haven't even brought that up. I know I'm not a Kiwi, but I'm certainly a Southern Hemisphere, proud Southern Hemisphere lad. I do think it's going to be the Springboks. I just can't help it, you know, on the back of that World Cup win. I think we got it in us, but let's wait and see. The Lions tour is always one of the best rugby highlights of the year, right?
Yeah.
So yeah, let's see.
Cannot wait.
Cannot wait.